I want to talk today about how we can get the most out of our decodable texts. Now, I want to focus on fluency. And when I'm talking about reading fluency with our very beginning readers, I want to keep in mind that this doesn't mean that if you try these things, that our students are like, poof, gonna all of a sudden be fluent readers. It is a journey. And how I see it is that we can start at the very beginning, kind of laying that groundwork by modeling, giving some corrective feedback, just giving little snippets of instruction that will eventually kind of contribute to developing those fluent readers. So everything that I'm about to kind of go over in this book, I want you to kind of have that in mind, that it's not something that happens overnight, but I really believe we want to start laying that groundwork. Right away, we have dialogue. Now, here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to just have our kids do the decoding, get to the end, and then turn the page. Because for the most part, our beginning readers or our struggling readers are probably needing to sound out a lot of these words and are probably going word by word. And we want to make sure that we give them that time to do that, because that's really important. Accuracy comes first, and the whole point, right, is to give them opportunities to practice decoding within connected text. But that's not our only goal, because we want to take each of these words and we want to kind of bring the story alive for our students. And that's not going to happen if they're just looking at each word as a single word. We need to kind of help them put this together. So for this page, that helps pointing out where someone's talking, a character's talking versus where a narrator is talking, pointing that out, the punctuation of it all, but also what happens with our voice when we go from character voice to narrator voice. Now, step one is just showing them the punctuation that's involved and just saying, okay, there's where the character's talking, there's where the character's talking again, there's where the narrator's talking. And we're going to model what it sounds like, how our voice kind of drops a little when we go from character to narrator voice. It doesn't need to be super expressive, but we do want our voice to have that subtle change when we go from character voice to narrator voice. Yes, Brad brags, I got a grub. And I even am going to have my little hand here to show how it kind of goes down a little when I go to my narrator voice. Then I'm going to have my students practice doing that same thing, changing their voice. The next thing we want to make sure of is that we are stopping at the end punctuation. And again, our voice does something different when we start a sentence versus when we're coming to the end of a sentence. And modeling that for our students and having them reread the sentence and practicing that can be really helpful. How often do students not understand something they read because they just blew right past that punctuation? I see it even with older readers, older struggling readers. That is like a really common thing, to just kind of like, almost like they keep going and they almost like start the sentence like randomly somewhere else. So we really want to start right away, attending that punctuation, modeling what our voice does, even ever so subtly, and how it changes from the beginning of a sentence to the end of a sentence, and making sure we're giving ourselves that pausing time. We can also start to point out phrases within these shorter sentences. And I really firmly believe that starting this process young can be so helpful, because it not only helps with fluency, but it also helps with comprehension. Being able to break up a sentence into meaningful phrases can be so helpful. So with these simple sentences, the phrases can just be 2 words. It doesn't need to be a super long phrase. So it could be Brad grabs goes together and then the grub. And just talking about how we want to pause between those phrases. He grabs the grub in the box. Now, I know we don't want, that is not our end goal for kids to be like, he grabs the grub in the box. That's not the end goal. This is like a stepping stone to gain us there. We want to go from word by word reading to eventually fluent reading. And this is just one of those steps along the way that can get us there, because it's much more manageable for our students. Now, if we can point out where those pauses are, model it for our students, and then have our students try and pause between those phrases, that can be super helpful. It's even something I do with my 6th grade son, with his texts. Often when there's super long sentences, it's like you get really lost. And then when I break it up into phrases, it's like, oh, I can comprehend that sentence a lot better. And the reading just sounds so much better when they know kind of where to pause. So we can start this super early. And again, they might not right away super fluently read this text, but we are laying that groundwork for them, and we're giving them little stepping stones and appropriate scaffolds for where they're at. If you want to draw scoops to show the phrases, take a, what is this, plastic sleeve protector, and you can put the book right in like that, and then I'm going to show you how we can use it. So here's what it looks like. The book is inside here and safe and sound, and I just used a dry erase marker to draw in the scoops, and now we can practice reading, pausing between the scoops. And then there's one other way. Sometimes the scoops don't fit. Like if I wanted to scoop that top sentence, it can be a little bit squishy. So instead, you can use these little slash marks and explain to your students that they're going to pause when they see that mark, and then they're going to really pause when they see 2, because that means that it's the end of the sentence. So they might even want to change their voice a little bit to show that it's the end of a sentence. So this is good if you don't really have room for those scoops.